Welcome back, folks. Brought to you by Exodus 90. I hit record in this moment because look at us now.
All right, so I feel like there's a lot happening that we need to respond to as a team. We did have Pope Benedict pass recently, but we also had, a Bills player get hurt pretty massively at the Bills game yesterday. It's sports. Meh. I think it's different when it's that serious. And it's just in our face right there. I know personally for me, it made me think of a few things. I just think there's a lot of things happening. And as a team, I think it's important to talk about it.
So there we go.
So there it is. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I wish we had some tacos.
Sarah, that's for you.
A few of those things, yeah, talking about last night because that's fresh.
That's right? Real fresh. And it's really unique to us in Buffalo, right? It's one of our boys, our players.
Yeah. It's a boy.
Big boy.
Ben Baby.
What?
Did you see that guy?
Who? Bengals.
Talk guys. One of the Bengal guys. His name is Ben Baby. And so when they were doing some of the interviews last night, they were interviewing Ben Baby. I'm like, that can't possibly be his name.
It is.
Ben Baby.
That's
his name. I was coming from here. Actually, we had our planning parties yesterday. So we had high school, we had young adult. We finished up our young adult one, and I was on my way over to my parents' house. I didn't have the game on because I was talking to Anya on the way in, and I was like, I'll just catch the game. And when I had messaged my brother, we'll wait until you get here.
Yeah.
But I come walking in, and my family had just finished praying for this young guy.
Damar.
I was like, well, what happened? I had just missed it. Well, they got a message that there was an injury, so they ended up turning on the game. Usually when these types of injuries happen, you're thinking is that a neck thing?
Yeah. It looked like a head injury, but the fact that he got up and went down, he was fine, and then all of a sudden not.
Yeah. And it was so sudden.
I used to play football.
Yeah.
So you go through how do you tackle somebody? And the NFL is actually very keen on making sure people know how to tackle well.
Did you watch it?
Later, okay. I saw the actual clip of it because they weren't playing the replay.
No, I'm happy they weren't.
So later online, I saw what the tackle was.
I don't think it was a bad tackle.
It wasn't a bad tackle.
It's a tackle that happens. They just do that.
And it wasn't even a significantly impactful hit. Maybe it was bad form and you were just doing a bad tackle, or sometimes you're getting hit by a train and you're out. But it was neither of those. We come to later find out that his heart had stopped and they got the paddles out. They're doing CPR. Normally when you have injuries, even terrible injuries, you see the guys coming out, even if they're on the stretcher or they're going off, usually get a thumbs up. That's encouraging to the teammates, to the crowd. Everyone applauds and best wishes and prayers, that type of thing. This was a lot different. You've never seen an injury like this on national TV.
I was watching it live, and I watched it happen. It was scary. How the men were reacting. Honestly, both teams were very distraught.
Yes.
You have grown men crying. And I'm saying men can't cry, but it's very different when a man cries like that. You know something's wrong.
It's serious. Us women, we cry all the time,
I cried 2 days ago.
I drop my pencil and sometimes I cry. We're emotional creatures.
God made us that way.
God bless you.
But seeing men like that,
yes,
you know
it was. And especially everyone gathered away on their knees. Called my dad. In all my years of watching football, I've never seen an injury or anything like this. He's like, this is life or death. I was kind of watching an interview. I don't keep up with football, so I forget their names, and I apologize if they ever see this. But there was an interview between two of the sports broadcasters, and they were saying, this is life or death. If you just think about it, he was just getting ready to go play football. Yeah. His family was there. Who knows? They were probably all going to celebrate after, He was getting his shoulder pads on. You never know. And so it happened so suddenly. He was a healthy guy.
Football certainly is a violent sport. And in its early days, people were dying because of the sport, right? They didn't wear the protection. They didn't have helmets. Theodore Roosevelt, when he was president, said, listen, we need to do something with this sport. Otherwise, we're banning this sport. Yeah. So they put in measures to have helmets. You start off with leather helmets, then you moved on to more sophisticated helmets. Even from Theodore Roosevelt, he was one of the grittiest guys around for him to say, we got to do something about the sport. Otherwise, we have to can it because people are dying. Mm-hmm. That is something significant. What's interesting is the fact that he had a heart attack, that just doesn't happen in football. You get the head injuries, you get neck injuries, you have your extremities injured all the time, broken ribs. And those are things that, with the exception of like a neck injury is very scary. You can certainly die from that, right?
Yeah.
Usually it's something that can be healed with some sort of time. To have a heart attack like that is very interesting. That's scary too, because he's a young man.
24 years old.
That's...
It's only his second year on the Bills? First year?
Yeah,
he's still a rookie. He's still new.
Yeah, he's still new in the league. That's sad. But I think one of the blessings in this is that his family was actually there. I mean, could you imagine being in a different part of the country and having that happen to your son?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That would be terrifying as a parent, to be like, I'm not even there. Like, how do I...
I know.
I need to get on a plane right now. Get me there.
Yeah.
I was watching it live, and the first thing that I noticed was the amount of prayer that was happening. Literally, the announcer said, start praying. And it's very interesting to me because there are a lot of people that don't go to church in this world, and there's a lot of people that don't believe in God, but even the NFL turned to prayer. Mm-hmm. And I think it's very telling that when we go through struggles, and this is why I wanted to talk about this, is like when we go through really difficult things, and this is difficult for everyone, what did the players do? They started praying. Mm-hmm. The entire team got on their knees with the coaches and prayed their hearts out. And the other team did the same thing. They started praying.
There's a picture, that same picture, overlaid with all of the tweets from each team saying, our prayers are with you, from all the NFL teams. And then, you go onto the feed and see in the comments, you see like the Toronto Blue Jays saying, our prayers are with you. You're seeing all these sports teams that aren't even football teams.
You have everyone praying, and it's very interesting because so many claim to not believe in God.
Oh, yeah, and if you think about it, too, it's like, people, too, could look at this and say, well, if there's a God, how could he let this happen to poor DeMar? But if you look at it, God even brought a great good out of it. And he broadcasted, everyone was praying. I think that's one of the most beautiful pictures I've ever seen. There's Catholic art, obviously. In worldly terms, I think that is one of the most beautiful things I've seen on social media. They all came together in community. I was on Instagram too. I saw Buffalo Bills. Everyone was commenting. I even saw on Damar Hamlin's Instagram page, everyone was commenting, praying for you. And everyone's stories praying for Damar. The whole social media, the whole NFL, any sports leagues, the whole world, the whole nation came together. And that's what God does, is he takes something that is awful, because you can't take away from that. What happened was awful and was very sad. Turned to great, great good from it.
And I think this is where like the atheists would come in, right? And they'll say like, well, this is the problem with evil. Is like God would have prevented this, or would have prevented any evil, like any evil. But that's not what God does. I mean, we know where Jesus stands on this. He knows what a tough road is. I mean, he shows us every time on the cross. When we take a look at the crucifix, Jesus knows pain. He knows hurt. It's like with Lazarus, like...
He cried. He wept.
He wept, And could he have just prevented that? Of course he could have. But he didn't. And it's just like with any... Like, is he going to prevent all things from taking place? Anything that is wrong, anything that is bad or evil, accidents. Yeah, when we're in heaven. Here on earth, this is a broken world. And Jesus knew that broken world intimately, and he showed us the way. Not because he's going to prevent it, but he's going to be there alongside of us carrying the cross. Yeah. And I think just seeing how that is playing out now, it's just a good way of showing like, hey, Jesus is in the mix of this. And you're seeing when the various levels of community come together. Both the team coming together.
The other team,
the NFL, the city of Buffalo coming together,
Cincinnati
the country coming together. That's a powerful example of faith on display, and that it's not just about when things are good, that's when God is there. Mm-hmm. Because something goes wrong doesn't mean that God isn't there, but he's there with us in the midst of it.
Oh, yeah.
He's in it with you. So then the other thing that I really thought about, too, was when this happened, like we were talking about, he's only 24 years old. So it really made me think about the gift of life. And as Catholics, we are pro-life. All three of us are pro-life. We're not going to shy away from it. It made me really think about how the world has lost the respect and dignity for human life. It is a human life. There was a statement said throughout the whole time this was happening. The game was put to the side. This is a human life that we're worried about now. The game doesn't matter. And I just imagined if we thought about that for every stage of life. I just thought about how life is a gift and how we should respect it no matter what.
And that's what it means from conception to natural death.
Yeah.
Is to be able to support life all the way through. Certainly, if you were to say, well, what's the biggest thing that you could work on being able to support life? A lot of people say, well, you're just not into abortion, right?
Yeah.
And so you're just anti-abortionists. Well, we're certainly against abortion, right? Like, that's not a great thing. And people will be like, well, that's all you care about. Well, no, that's not the case at all. And you see a lot of stuff coming out about euthanasia, of putting the option on the table for people to end their life early. And that's not it. It's like, well, what about all the babies that are born? Like, who's going to take care of them? It's like, well, the number of charities and agencies that are provided by the church.
Yeah.
There's so many different causes in the church in support of life.
Yeah.
And you can get to every one of those points before you even hit the religious argument.
We could literally point to, okay, here's this service for this. Here's this service for this. Here, right. Let us show you where to go and let us help you. There's so much more. And this just really made me think of the more.
I think it also reflects on how we also live our personal lives, because our world is constantly focused on what is next. And there is a healthy part of what is next, but we are always just focused. And I would dare to say that we have lost kind of sight of what it means to truly live. Mm-hmm. Honestly, because we're always, on to the next thing, on to the better thing. Okay, that's great. And whoever you're with, you're like, that's cool, but let me just text this person. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, we're always going. And I think what we sometimes lose sight of is, like, God gave us a specific purpose. Mm. We all have our unique set of gifts and talents to bring to this world. The big thing I wondered is, how would each day look if I lived it as if it was my last day? And how would I spend my time? Because it's like, yes, work is important. It really is. Like, work and your job, it's important. It's how you're using your gifts to help people. But there are so many people who put their work before family, who put their work before friendships, who put their work before, who would you want to spend your time with? How's your prayer life? You know what I mean? Like, how's your mental health? Like, we put all these things before, and it's truly... it made me, I think, kind of like when you were saying, like, about the dignity of life, it also made me think, how would we truly live our lives? And how would each day look if you lived it as if it was your last day?
Yeah, because that football player didn't wake up knowing that was going to happen.
No, and it would look... very different. My days would look very different, and I think something too that's just like, we're talking about the new year too, and New Year's resolution, is I'm trying to do that to the best of my ability and just enjoying every moment of each day. Like, right now I'm here with you guys. I'm enjoying this moment, and whatever's going on or whatever I have to do doesn't matter because I'm in the moment. And I think that is what we have to do more of, is just enjoying being present with who we're with and enjoying the moments. It is.
Life is a gift, and it's a gift from God because He created us. And He thought of us beginning of time.
Yeah.
All true.
All true.
So we were downstairs, Nancy stopped in, and we were just talking about Pope Benedict.
Yeah, because that's the other crazy thing that happened.
Right.
Pope Benedict unfortunately passed as well.
Yeah. So Pope Benedict, he was the Pope before our current Pope, Pope Francis now. Pope Benedict was, I think, a super important person in my own spiritual journey. And so when I heard of his passing, it was one of those reflective moments where, you stop and appreciate the life that was. And so when you do have a passing, especially for, somebody like the leader of our church, Pope Benedict, it's good to reflect upon the life that they lived and to celebrate it. And it's really easy to get caught up in the mourning, right? And there's a process for that for sure. But for a life that is well lived, like with Pope Benedict, he lived a long time. I mean, he was in
95?
95, yeah. He did a lot with his life. Cardinal Ratzinger. So, like, he was a cardinal, of course, before he became Pope. He did a lot with his time. For me, as a young man, like when I was in my young 20s, for him to come on the scene and for me to kind of experience World Youth Day when we went to Germany and the Netherlands, for that trip, got really acclimated and introduced to who Pope Benedict was. Now, this was just after St. John Paul II passed. And so, like, oh, who's this new guy? And everyone was treating him like a rock star. And, like, you just get caught up with 1.5 million people. And then you hear him speak, and there's just this incredible experience that's around World Youth Day. So that was, like, my introduction to him as I was coming to age of my faith for myself. And so there was a lot of experiences, and then a couple years later we go to Rome and we have this pilgrimage to Rome and Assisi. We see him again. I said this a lot, so you probably have heard me say this, but it's call to action when he had said, young people, the world offers you comfort, but you are not created for comfort. You are created for greatness. When I first heard that, that became my mission statement, like my personal mission statement of pursuing that. Not in a way of like the worldly things, but in the way of like, what is Christ calling you to do? For every single person, you have a different mission in front of you, but don't choose the comfort that the world offers you, because there's a lot of comfort that will numb you down and just make you complacent and sit and say, like, here's the things you need to worry about when you are created for something so much more. And so when Pope Benedict said those, and those just like pierced my heart, right? And gave me conviction to be able to go and work for the church, be able to go and find my spouse, and go and live as a virtuous man. And he just had a lot of great things. And additionally, really made me appreciate the tradition side of the church, of the classical beauty of what the bride of Christ actually is. There's so much that the church offers that he really kind of opened the doors for me. It was a sad day, but it was a good day to reflect and think about his papacy and about the life that he has lived within the church. It was a contemplative moment. So it was a cool moment.
Yeah, so there's a lot to think about, but we just wanted to pop on and kind of talk about all the stuff that's happening. Know that we're praying for you guys, and we're praying for everyone else involved. I know it's the beginning of the year, and there's already a couple scary things that have happened, but you know what? The Lord's with us. The Lord is always with us. Even through the hard stuff, He's got our backs. So rely on Him, because He's with you. Amen!
There you go.
Bye!
Happy New Year!
Oh, Happy New Year! Happy New Year, yes!
Button.